It's 1944. The world is engulfed in the largest conflict humanity has ever seen. Across the fields of Europe, the thunder of tank treads echoes as steel giants roll into battle. The Sherman, the Tiger, the T-34. These were the beasts that decided the fate of nations. They were noisy, cramped, and often unreliable. But to the men inside, they were salvation or damnation. Now, fast forward nearly 80 years. Today's modern tanks are a different breed altogether. They're high-tech, incredibly lethal, and designed with the lessons of those old machines in mind. But it raises a question worth asking. Just how far have tanks really come? How do today's armored monsters compare to the legendary steel beasts of World War II? That's exactly what we're going to explore in this video, comparing the tanks of the 1940s to the marvels of modern engineering that dominate today's battlefields. So, sit back, maybe pour yourself a strong cup of coffee, or something stronger, and let's take a journey from the dusty battlefields of Normandy to the high-tech theaters of modern warfare. Let's start with the most obvious comparison: size and weight. In World War II, tanks were massive by the standards of the time. The German Tiger T-14, for example, tipped the scales at nearly 55 tons. It was a monster, and Allied crews both feared and respected it. Meanwhile, the American Sherman weighed around 30 tons, making it lighter, faster, and easier to transport, but at the cost of armor protection. Now, compare that to modern machines. The American M1 Abrams weighs in at a jaw-dropping 70 tons. The British Challenger 2 is about the same, while the German Leopard 2 is close behind. These things are behemoths, nearly twice the weight of a Sherman. And yet, despite being so much heavier, they can move faster, climb tougher terrain, and deliver far more devastating firepower. That's because technology has made every component more efficient. Engines, transmissions, suspensions, and even the design of the tracks. A Tiger tank in 1943 might have crawled across a muddy battlefield at 20 miles per hour if it was lucky. An Abrams, it can sprint at 45 miles per hour on roads, despite being much heavier. That's progress. Next, let's talk about armor protection. In the 1940s, armor was simple. It was just thick slabs of steel. The thicker the plate, the more protection you had. The Tiger tank had nearly 100 millimeters of frontal armor, which in its day made it nearly invulnerable to Allied guns at long range. But this came at a price. That much steel was heavy, and German engineers had to build oversized engines just to move the thing. Today, tanks don't rely on plain steel anymore. Instead, they use advanced composites, layered armor made of ceramics, metals, and even depleted uranium. The Abrams, for example, uses chobam armor, a classified mix that can shrug off hits that would have blown a World War II tank to pieces. Some tanks even add reactive armor, bricks that explode outward when struck to disrupt incoming shells and missiles. And if that wasn't enough, the newest systems are active protection systems. These are basically defensive gadgets that can detect an incoming missile or rocket and shoot it down before it even hits the tank. It's like a personal bodyguard with lightning-fast reflexes. A World War II crewman could never have imagined something like that. Now let's look at the heart of the tank, the gun. World War II tanks had respectable firepower for their time. The Sherman's standard 75mm gun was decent early in the war, but by 1944, it was struggling against German armor. The Tiger's legendary 88mm cannon, however, was feared by every Allied tanker. It could kill a Sherman at over a mile away. The Soviet T-34, meanwhile, carried a 76mm gun at first, upgraded to an 85mm to counter the German heavy tanks. But compare those to modern cannons. The M1 Abrams, Leopard 2, and Challenger 2 all carry smoothbore guns around 120mm in size. These weapons can fire armor-piercing shells at speeds so fast they can punch through steel like butter. They also fire advanced ammunition, including depleted uranium rounds designed to burn straight through enemy armor. Think about this for a second. An Abrams could likely destroy a Tiger tank from 3 miles away before the German crew even knew it was being targeted. That's how far things have come. Of course, firepower isn't just about the main gun anymore. Modern tanks carry computerized fire control systems that allow them to hit moving targets with pinpoint accuracy. In World War II, a gunner had to rely on his eyes, judgment, and a lot of luck. Hitting a moving target at long range was as much art as science. Today, an Abrams gunner simply locks on, and the computer calculates everything: wind, distance, speed, even the Earth's rotation. The result is a first-shot kill more often than not. It's not even fair to compare the two eras. But let's pause here and think about the men inside these machines. A Sherman crew lived inside a cramped, noisy steel box. The air stank of oil, gunpowder, and sweat. Communication was shouting over the roar of the engine. The danger was ever present. One well-placed shell could turn the whole tank into a coffin. Casualties among tank crews were staggering. Modern tanks, while still dangerous, are far more survivable. Crews have better seating, air conditioning in some models, and far more advanced communications gear. If a shell does penetrate, the design of modern tanks often funnels the explosion away from the crew compartment. Ammunition is stored in blast-proof compartments to prevent catastrophic explosions. It's still a dangerous job, but the odds of surviving a hit today are far better than in the 1940s. Another huge leap forward is in mobility and logistics. During World War II, getting a Tiger tank to the front was a nightmare. It guzzled fuel, broke down constantly, and required trains or heavy transporters just to move long distances. The Sherman, by comparison, was a logistical dream. It was simple, reliable, and could be shipped across the Atlantic in bulk. That's one reason the Allies won. Quantity and reliability often mattered more than sheer size. Modern tanks, despite their enormous weight, are designed with logistics in mind. They're still fuel-hungry, but they're built to be reliable over long campaigns. The Abrams, for example, runs on a turbine engine similar to a jet, allowing it to use multiple types of fuel. Maintenance is still intense, but nothing like the constant breakdowns that plagued World War II heavy tanks. Now, let's not forget technology beyond the gun and armor. In World War II, a tank commander relied on binoculars, maps, and raw instinct. Radios were just becoming common, and coordination was tough. If you lost communication, you were on your own. Today's tanks are practically rolling command centers. They have GPS, encrypted radios, thermal imaging, and battlefield networks that link them to drones, artillery, and infantry. A modern tank commander can see in total darkness, through smoke, and even detect hidden enemies with thermal sensors. Compared to the blind fighting of 1940s tank battles, it's like night and day. But here's something worth remembering. Technology doesn't erase history. Those old tanks, Shermans, Tigers, T-34s, they were the cutting edge of their time. They were symbols of national power, just like modern tanks are today. And they carried brave men who fought, bled, and sometimes died inside them. When we compare them, it's easy to say modern tanks are better. But the World War II giants had a different kind of power. They were decisive in the greatest war humanity has ever fought. Without them, the world we live in today might look very different. So, how far have tanks come? In raw capability, the difference is staggering. Modern tanks are faster, more powerful, better protected, and far smarter than their World War II ancestors. A single Abrams could probably wipe out an entire company of World War II Shermans or T-34s without breaking a sweat. But when you look at the bigger picture, both generations served their purpose. The Shermans and Tigers of the 1940s shaped history. The Abrams and Leopards of today stand as deterrents, projecting strength in a dangerous world. Each represents the pinnacle of what their time demanded, and maybe that's the best way to sum it up. World War II tanks were giants of their era, crude, noisy, and deadly. Modern tanks are the result of decades of evolution, refined into the most lethal land machines ever built. Both are symbols of their times, and both command our respect. Because in the end, whether it was a young man in 1944 peering out of a Sherman hatch in Normandy, or a modern crew rolling through the desert in an Abrams, one truth remains: tanks are the kings of the battlefield, and their story is still being written.